Well, I taught my wife Catherine to do her very first pastel drawing, and I must admit she blew me away. It turned out fantastic. This video is really good for you if you're a beginner, because you actually see me going through as if you're sitting in the studio with me, where I'm showing you how to hold things like soft pastels and pencils as well. It's very different than my usual type of tuition. Now, as always, it's packed full of tips and techniques, but towards the end of this one, you really need to look out for the way that I show Catherine how to do the black palm trees and to get super fine detail, because that's something you just can't get with black pastel pencils no matter how you sharpen them. Now, as this is a fairly long video, I've got chapters, so if you just go down to the bottom of the video, you'll see all those little chapters and you can skip through it to the point that you want to see yourself. So Catherine's done a few samples and tests like I would normally show on my videos to see what pastel colours we got, and we're going to be using sticks a lot for this particular drawing. And the reason we're using sticks is because the PanPastels, as you know probably, they're not perfectly opaque, so we can't get this vibrancy of colour unless we use a white paper, which I don't particularly like using because we want to be able to see that white of the sun. So I've done a quick test, and the pastel sticks, which perhaps not all of you know, look like this. Rembrandt make is a very firm make. You get more control over those compared to things like Unison that are much softer and more brittle. So this is the make I'm going to be using. Catherine's showing some of the colours she's pulled out already. And it's Catherine's very first go of pastels in any shape or form. So we've got our fingers crossed as to how this is going to turn out, but we thought it would be interesting for you to actually see a complete beginner. So if you start putting some of that purple down in that top section, that's it. You want to angle the pastel at about, keep it a nice shallow angle, and then just rub it in circular motions, and this will just be an underlayer. That's it, don't be afraid of it. Now what you'll find with...
quite gritty.
Yeah, with pastels as they start, first of all, as you start your first layer, it can be a bit gritty. And also if you look at the end of the pastel, you'll find that sometimes they're a bit hard on the end, whereas when
changes colour.
Yeah, when you've actually done it, you'll see that the harder outer edge is gone. So, don't be too scared with it, and actually keep the angle down low like that. The PanPastels are kind of easier for a beginner, especially to get the hang of. Yep, we've got dust coming down because I'm working at around about 80-degree angle. So as you're seeing that, just start blending in slightly with your fingers, and that's pushing that pastel into the pastel mat surface. Now if you're working completely flat, you won't see things like that, because obviously the dust is just sitting flat on the surface rather than coming down.
Does it matter that it's not covering, or should I be covering it completely?
No, that's okay. Just get some pastel down at the start. And what I'll do, I'll get a PanPastel tool out to show you that you can actually use these alongside pastel sticks. So I'll just get that out. Always remember on the first layers especially that your hands are clean. You don't want to be blowing the pastel.
Sorry.
Because it's, well, all dust is kind of toxic. So another thing you can do, you can, get your pastel down on there. Like that. Because all these colours need to be smooth and blended. And then you can use a PanPastel tool, because these help to push it into the paper surface and spread it out. But it will deaden the colour a little bit because it's removing some colour. As I said, it'll never be absolutely perfect, but that doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter if I'm going up there.
No. Doesn't matter if you go over the edge of the top, because I didn't actually do a paper edge or border there. All you want to make sure of is that you do actually go outside the line where you would possibly mount it. Okay, so if you're going to frame it and you're going to put a paper mount around, you want to make sure that you go beyond that. Otherwise, you're going to see, you know, a little bit of paper on that edge. Now, if you look at the bottom of that sponge, you'll see we've got most of that red on there now. So if you went into the purple, you're going to contaminate it again.
Right.
So that's okay if you want to blend this down in.
Yeah.
But don't like go just straight into the middle of it. Now, as loose as you want to go, don't go just into complete autopilot and put things everywhere and anywhere. Okay, so when you're wiping that, just a couple of goes like that, and that's it. Because with pastels especially, you can really get quite carried away, and before you know it, you put the wrong colours in the wrong areas. That's where we are. That's the white of the sun, that's the yellow of the sun. I'll just get a different PanPastel tool set, because we want this to be clean. I said go all the way around the sun with that and then work your way out. Okay, so put some more of that yellow down again now, and this time we just blend it with our fingers now. That's it.
So do you normally use transfer paper then?
Yeah, the thing with transfer paper, you don't want it to be pushed in too hard. And as we add more elements, it'll disappear. But if you've got a line like that, you can always use an eraser on it, or we'll make it go by putting a pencil on there. Okay, so what you want to do eventually, if I have some of that.
Well, surprising how much you've got to put down to get rid of it.
Yeah. You don't want to push so hard on transfer paper. Then make sure your finger's pretty clean. And then you can, it's got to actually show up.
Right.
The tonal value is more important for us.
And following the colours of those.
You see your pencil on the side really, really light all the time.
The shapes of things I struggle with.
Yeah, well, that's practice. So if you blend that in. That's okay, that works out. And then if you want to pick out some highlights on there, you can use that pencil. So if that's going to be the dark at the beginning, try doing some more fluffy clouds at the front of it. Let's say you can use it like a pencil, just don't dig straight down in.
So I just do like, I don't know.
Yeah, you just go on autopilot rather than look at it. The trouble is, this is the image you picked out is really advanced, and you're trying to do something more realistic from a surreal drawing. So with beginners, I'd always suggest trying to actually copy what you're doing rather than change it, because that just makes it even more difficult when you're actually beginning. Right, stop. So if you keep going down all the time, it'll just disappear all the time. So you want to, when you put in more layers on, you need to not blend it completely away, or it'll go to nothing.
Yeah.
So let's just create some bits of cloud, lock in it, and then just tap it like that. Otherwise, the more layers you have, it'll just disappear completely all of the time. Just circular strokes, start in the middle.
Pressing quite hard?
Yeah, fairly hard. If you go too hard, you will snap it, but it is quite resilient. That's it, so stay in the middle first before going out to the where the yellow is. Okay, and now if you've got clean fingers, blend that in. So if you've got red on them, don't use those fingers anyway now, because even wiping it will contaminate that. So use a different finger.
Have some wet wipes on my fingers.
Yeah, you don't want wet wipes because they're greasy.
Oh, I got a wet finger.
So you just have... okay, so if you want to blend even further, you can use a paper stump like this. So I'm going from the white and then going into the yellow.
I got a bit of yellow in there.
Yeah, well, it will do. I want it to blend anyway.
What if I don't?
Doesn't make any difference.
Is that where we get divorced?
Yeah. Right, carry on. Build up more layers. So I said start in the middle and then work around and outwards. Right, blend that again with your finger. That's it, start with the middle and then go outwards. Don't come back into the middle then. So we'll have to change that colour as it comes up.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Should I fill that in first or carry on with the outline?
I'd go even lighter. So let's go with this.
Because that on there goes darker.
Yeah. That's it. So I want the lightest part here.
All
and
right.
then it's going darker, darker, darker,
So
darker.
filling in then, am I?
Let's see what that colour looks like. That's okay. It's not exactly like in the reference, but I want it to have more of a light effect. Right, so rather than create loads of dust, get the tool, you can spin it around to another bit. You don't need much pastel to do any of it, and you want the minimum amount on there, okay?
Right. We're carrying on with this colour?
Yeah, well, I would change now, go to the next lightest.
That one?
Yeah.
Oh, I struggle holding the pencils.
Yeah.
Don't know why.
It's because you're not used to writing or holding pencils. You're used to brushes now.
Yeah. It don't matter about these bits, we can stick them in after, can't we?
Yeah, you can go over that anyway. So what you don't want to be doing is butting up against the line. So where it goes from light to dark, you don't want to leave a line there. We're not doing like paint by numbers. So you can come slightly over it, like 0.5 millimeter, because we want to be able to put the next layer over the top. And bring some of that down in there as well, that reddy colour down in. That's it, and into this. Right, and then you can use your, when you look across, you can just use a little bit of the purple then. Yep, that'll do. See, that's a really soft, powerful
really
colour.
vibrant colour in that.
So you'd either need to use it lighter with pressure, or just use a different one. When it'll blend together, it'll subdue it anyway. But some of the softer the pencil, the more vibrant it can be, and the more actual pastel goes down. That's it. Now don't forget, you want to blend it. I'll subdue it a bit as well, and it'll create like a blurred, soft effect.
And it doesn't matter that I'm going over the highlights in the middle.
No, the white will go on top. Okay, so On the sides we've got some blue, so you can drag that in, okay, like that. So rather than be pulling it out, just drag it in
that way.
And you want it quite horizontal. If you think that's closer, or perhaps a combination of the two,
yeah, that one,
then go with that.
But then that's quite orangey on the top there.
Yeah, well, you put the highlight lines
on last.
Later on, yeah, the edges. So you're just looking at the major type of shape. Because we've got to start somewhere, and then we can adjust the colours, tonal values,
Not sure
once we've got something else down. As a final thing to do now, the real difficult part of the drawing was working out how we'd get that black, so black on top, and especially with the leaves with the tiny fronds or whatever they're called, like haze. Now you'd never get that with a pencil, you'd never get that black on top of an underlayer, especially PanPastel underlayer. We've used sticks, so you would have more of a chance of getting it on there, but you will never ever get it that fine. So what I did a test before I started, and we've also tested again now to make sure that gouache will go on top of a thick underlayer, which it will. So with gouache, you can just put it, as I usually do, in one of these glass containers or plastic container. The gouache dries very, very fast, but you want the paint to be extremely, you know, thick really. You don't want it running at all, because pastelmat paper will suck that into the surface, and if you've got too much water, you'll see kind of like cauliflower edges to it. So it needs to be really dry. So if you want to start doing the trunk, that'll be the easiest thing. And don't use much paint. That's it. And when you're doing paint, obviously you're always bringing the brush towards you. You're never pushing it away from you. And especially when you've got a background like this, you don't want to be splattering paint. It's always, you know, this has got to be done correct the first time. But you can see how dark it's coming out. Now, when it's dry, the pastel, you can put pencils back on top. You can put any pastel back on top of it. That's why we're just using the black. Now, of course, the secret to getting the really fine tips on the leaves is to use a small brush, like a rigger brush that I would use with oils, and to make sure that paint is really quite dry. It wants to be less fluid than, say, ink. You know if it's not wet enough because it just won't come off the brush. If it's too wet, you're going to get those kind of cauliflower type of the water really expanding on the surface of the pastelmat paper. Okay, so it's worth having a small piece of paper with, you know, the underground, the underlayer pink like this on it, so you can test it. That's the only possible way you'll know exactly how much water to put on there. Okay, so you can see some areas need to be darker. Okay, so you can cut into them with this dark now and just put a few bits in there. Okay, so that's the shadowy areas then of the wave, and then here you can see it's coming out and around. And then we can blend it back up in just to soften it down. That's giving it that more three-dimensional appearance. So keep looking at your reference. And then by here, it's all the way over. we got a whiter pencil again, like a Caran d'Ache white, that we can use. That'll be that little bit whiter on top. But we'll do that at the end.
Okay, let them get ready.
Because if you cover all of the underlayer dark up, you'll just have the same colour every single area on it, and it'll look flat.
Coming from over here then, is there?
And just very little pressure, the weight of the pencil, nothing else. And as you come to the middle, you can push more pressure, and then the weight of the pressure coming off.
But they don't look, they look sort of wavy rather than straight.
Yeah, it's, if you try and do it freehand, believe me,
they'll be all over the place, will they?
You can't do lines like that freehand.
Are we going to put white in there as well, or?
Yeah. That's it. You're drawing with the side of the pencil, not the tip of the pencil.
I was, wasn't I?
Okay, well, we'll review the video evidence after. So if you want the darker blue, you know, you can go back in with a subdued blue in areas.
It's got a bit of blue there, isn't there?
So you want that lighter colour then to come down, that's it, and create the angles and create the foam. And make sure they join, because they would never like just stop mid-air.
Okay.
That's it. Some of them are wide, some of them are narrow. Okay.
That's okay, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's just about it. You can do some other little touches then.
A little bit more over here.
Yeah, carry on if you want to.
Where's that paper gone?
You just got to watch now that you're not rubbing on the water or anything. You don't. Once you've done your final work on areas, you don't want to be going back over the top again, because you're just going to smudge it. Now, let me know in the comments what you think of Catherine's drawing. Tell me how you think she did, and also let me know the next type of videos you'd like me to put up on YouTube. Now, I really think you're going to love this video as well.